Hello everyone. Today let's solve the travel card, right? This one. So you can read the problem, entire problem. So I'll just try to summarize and make it simple. So you can just go through the entire problem. So what this question says is, so we are given a list of timestamps representing trips. Basically, we are given the timestamps representing trips by a person in a day. So in a we are given a list of timestamps representing trips taken by the single person in a day. The goal, what is our goal? Our goal is to mainly calculate the minimum cost of covering all the trips using the three type of tickets, right? We have three type of tickets and we have to calculate the minimum cost of covering all the trips. Nothing but first one is a single trip costing $20. This one. First one. A single trip costing $20. First one. And second one is a 90-minute pass costing $50. We have 90-minute pass that costs $50. The third one is 1 day pass costing $120. So this one here, $120. 1 day pass, this is costing $120. So the main thing is we are given a list of timestamps representing a trips. A trip is taken by a person in a day. So our main goal is to calculate the minimum cost of covering all the trips that he has covered using three types of tickets. One is a single trip that is costing $20, this one, and a 90-minute pass costing $50, and the final one is 1 day pass costing $120. So we have to calculate the cost in such a way that the costs should be calculated for each trip, right? So for each trip we have to calculate the cost while considering the possible overlap of passes and the minimum cost for the entire set of trips. So these things. In this way we have to calculate the costs. So what will be the approach we'll be going? So we'll be going with the dynamic programming. So I'll explain the approach step by step. Just give me a second. Let me delete this one. So first thing is we'll go with the input handling, right? As usual, we'll be going with the input handling. So second step, what we will be doing after the input handling, what we will do, we'll go for initialization. So in the input handling, what we will do, we will read the number of trips and their timestamps from the input. That's what we will do in the input handling, or the first step. The second step, nothing but the DP array initialization. So we will create the arrays to store the minimum cost up to each trip. Minimum cost up to each trip in the DP array, right? DP array consists of minimum cost to each trip. I'll just give MC, minimum cost to each trip. In the DP array consists of the minimum cost to each trip and also the cost for each trip separately. Cost for each trip we are saving separately in the result array. So this one. So in the result array, what we are storing? We are storing the cost of each trip separately. Cost of each trip. So I'll just give cost of each trip. So I'll just give CET. Here the DP array is storing the minimum cost up to the each trip and the result array is storing a cost of each trip. This is second step, right? After the input handling. So the third step will be DP calculation, nothing but the dynamic programming calculation. What we will do, we will iterate through each trip. So we are iterating through the individual trip to calculate this one, minimum cost, considering the three type of tickets. Considering three type of tickets means initially I explained in the question, right? We have three types of question. This one here itself. This one they have mentioned. So we are iterating through the each step to calculate the minimum cost considering the three type of tickets. So this is nothing but DP calculation. So I'll just give DP calculation. So the last step will be, the final step will be, we have to display the result, right? Nothing but the output. We have to print the cost for each trip, which is the difference in the minimum cost between the current trip and the previous trip. So we are printing the cost of each trip mainly, which is difference between the minimum cost between the current trip, this one, and the previous trip. Minimum cost between the current trip and the minimum cost of the previous trip. This one we are displaying finally in the output or the result, right? So this is what we'll be doing. Let's write the code and we will get to know better, right? So I'll start with this one. Just give me a second. Initially, let's start with this one. Process and input resume. So this will take the input, and next line will be process dot standard input. We'll set the encoding to UTF-8, right? So this is one thing. This is first thing. Second thing is we are setting the input string and the current line to 0. We are setting the input string to this one, empty string, and we are setting the current line to 0. I'll just give input string equals empty string. Also, current line we'll initialize this one to 0. So the next step, we have to collect all the input data into the single string. So how can we do that? Normally, I'll just give standard input dot on. So sorry, this one will be data, and let me give input std_in. So this is fine. Here within this, I'll just give input string input std_in, right? We are appending this one, input string to input std_in. So basically what we are doing, we are just collecting all the input data into the single string. Next, we will split the collected input data into lines and we have to process it. So I'll just copy the same thing and make the necessary changes, whatever the changes that we need. So here instead of data, I'll just give end. Let me remove input std_in. So here this has to be input string. This is same for all the problems, almost same for, input handling is almost same for all the problems, right? So I'll just remove this one, input string. Initially, what we will do, we will trim the white spaces. Also, let's split, because we have to read the input from all the lines, right? From all the individual lines. So for that one, I'll just give /n and let me give map of, I'll just take string. Again, we will trim the white spaces of the string by making use of trim. So this is fine. Next step, we will write the function to read the next line of the input. After reading the first line, we have to read the all the lines, right? Individual lines step by step. For that one, we will write the function. So I'll just give function read line. So return, this will be input string of, I have to current line, right? So I'll just give current line. We will increment the current line so that we will be reading the input of the individual lines. Next, this is where we will write the core logic, nothing but the main logic within the main function. So I'll just give function main. So within this, first we will read we have to read the number of trips that a person is taking within a day. So how can we do that? I'll just give, let me take the variable name n, and we have to read the number of trips, right? I'll just make use of read line. This is simple. Let trips, I'll just give new array of n. This is fine. Next, we will read each trip's timestamp. Initially, we have what we did. We read the number of trips. Now we are reading each trip's timestamp. How can we read? We have to make use of the for loop, and we have to read each trip timestamp, right? I'll just give for let I equals 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Trips of I equals plus read length. This is fair. This is fine. Next, what we will do, we will initialize the DP array with 0. So first step is we are initializing the DP array with 0, which will store the minimum cost up to the each trip. So while explaining the approach, I said that DP array will hold the or store the minimum cost up to each trip, right? That's what we are doing here. We will initialize the DP array with 0, and then we will store the minimum cost up to each trip in the same. So I'll just give let DP equals new array of, let me consider n plus 1, and I'll just fill this one with 0. And also, while explaining the approach, I also said that we'll be having the result array, right? To store the each trip separately. To store the each trip separately. For that one, I'll just consider res for the result array, and I'll just give same thing, new array. Instead of n plus 1, I'll just consider n. Same thing, we'll be filling the values with 0 initially. So that's what we'll be doing. Next step is, as I've said, it was iteration. Nothing but we will iterate through each step to calculate the minimum cost, or to compute the minimum cost. We will be iterating through the each step. For iteration, I'll be making use of the for loop. As usual, I'll just give for let I equals 0, I less than n. Let's increment this one. Next step, we need to know the cost of the single trip ticket, right? For that one, I'll just give single trip. Just consider single trip variable name. In this case, I'll just initialize this one to the iterated value of the DP plus 20. 20, 50 and 120, if you remember in the question. So they have asked, right? So cost of 90 minutes, this is nothing but the cost of a single trip ticket. Next, this is the cost of the 90-minute pass. So I'll just give, I'll just take 90 minutes itself, the variable name. So this one, I'll initialize this one to 50. Next, this is the cost of 1 day pass. I'll just give 1 day directly. So this will be, I'll initialize this one to 120. So after this, what we have to do, we have to find the first trip index that is within 90 minutes of the current trip. So I'll just give let j equals I, while j greater than or equal to 0, and trips of I minus trips of j less than 90. What we'll do, we'll decrement the j. So we can write in this way, 1 day equals 1 day plus TP of j plus 1, right? So this is fine. Next, we have to find the first trip index that is within 1 day of the current trip. So for this, same thing, I'll just initialize j to I directly, and here I'll just make use of the while loop, while j greater than or equal to 0, and just give me a second. While j greater than or equal to 0, so we have to calculate the trip index that is within 1 day of the current trip, right? So we can just write trips of I minus trips of j, and less than 1440. Again, we are decrementing the here. So we can again write 1 day equals 1 day plus dp of j plus. So this is one thing. Next, what we will do, we will choose the minimum cost option and update dp for the current trip. We have to calculate the minimum cost, right? So what we will do, we will choose the minimum cost option and we will update the dp for the current trip. So dp, next element, nothing but dp of I plus 1. For calculating the minimum cost, I'll just make use of the mat.min. So this has to be capital M, sorry. Mat.min of single trip as well as 90 minutes. Did I give 9 minutes? Sorry. This has to be 90 minutes, not the 9 minutes. I'll change it here as well. Let me give 90 minutes. And the final one I took is 1 day, right? So this has to be 1 day. Then we will be calculating the cost for the current trip. So this is easy. Cost for the particular trip will be calculated using in the result array, right? Iterated value of the result will be dp of I plus 1, which is just above this line basically, minus iterated value of dp. So this is it. Next, the final step will be, we will print the result for each step by making use of the for loop. We have to print the result for individual step, right? Each step. So how can we write? I'll just make use of for let I equals 0, I less than m, and let's do this. So here, let me give console log of result of iterated value of the result, nothing but this one, right? So this is it. Just give me a second. Yeah, this is it. I'll just come here. Let me copy this one. We have to get the output 20, 20 and 30 for this input, right? So let me come here. Let me hit the, so what error we are getting? I have mentioned YTF8. Sorry, this has to be UTF8. So let me run again. Program did not output anything. So here, did I miss the main again? Sorry. Most of the times I miss the main function, calling the main function here. So let me hit the run. Let line number 32, trips, new array. I have misspelled the array. Line number 22, right? So here, this has to be ARR. This is fine. Again, yeah. Now we are getting the output 20, 20 and 10 for this input. So basically we are getting the correct output, right? So let me copy this one. The output has to be this one. Let's check. I'll just give. Let me hit the run. So it has to be 20, 20. So I'm getting the wrong answer, right? 20, 20, 10, 0. This has to be 20, 00, 20, 20, 10. So somewhere we have missed the logic here. Yeah, let's see what. So I have made a mistake in line number 38. I have, this has to be 90 minutes is equal to 90 minutes plus dp of j plus 1. So I got confused and I wrote the same thing, this one day, same thing here, I think. So let me hit the run again. So this time we are getting 20, 20, 10, 0, 20, 00, 20, 20, 10, right? Same thing, 20, 00, 20, 20 and 10. So we are getting the correct output this time. So I missed that one basically. So that was the mistake. So just give me a second. Let me paste it over here. So yeah, what I'll do, I'll just come here. Let me click on submit. Let me paste it over here, right? So let me click on submit. Let's wait for some time. So yeah, we can see here this got accepted, right? So this one, the first one, sorry, this got accepted and the code works absolutely correct. So this is it. Thanks for watching, guys.